So I just wanted to do a quick recording to explain what's happening with the biogeometry in your homes and just clarify what I use as well to create those changes for those of you that are curious. I am Kassandra and I am the person that has been bringing biogeometry through Australia. It's very new to Australia. I only know one other person, maybe even just two, that are using biogeometry. So the technology or the science for it is still very new here in Australia, although it's quite known in the spiritual circles and scenes overseas, especially in Egypt and America and Europe. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of what the tools are and how I came about to biogeometry, I actually found biogeometry through Dr. Robert Gilbert and one of his students who actually introduced me to his teachings. And my background personally is with crystals. So I use crystals, and the reason why I use crystals is because crystals are the most solid form in the physical plane. So when I talk about the physical plane, I'm talking about this 3D plane. They are the most physical form on the 3D plane of spiritual energy or spiritual portals that can be used to heal and to transcend different types of frequencies. And I will be showing you some of the crystals that I use also in the clearings for biogeometry and give you a little bit of an explanation why. But for the reason as to why I got into biogeometry, when I was studying crystals with Dr. Robert Gilbert, I then found out that he was teaching biogeometry through this other colleague of mine and student of his, and was very much interested in understanding how to clear the energy in homes, as well as understanding how to work with the energy lines of the planet. And so just so you understand, biogeometry is the actual language of nature. So what do I mean when I say the language of nature? Everything in our environment has a frequency or a vibration, and there are certain vibrational fields that we can understand on a very, let's say, low level of comprehension. So for example, if we think about certain types of shapes, for example, the square or the rectangle, if we look at the shape squares and rectangle in 3D, you'll see that that particular shape holds a resonance that is very stable and is found in things like bricks. Or if you think about walls, they're all part of bricks that are on top of each other. So they create a very solid foundation. So if we think about the shapes of the squares, then they are connected to the foundations and the resonance of foundation. Just to give you a really layman's perspective on how shapes interpret types of resonance in our life. If we look at the shape of a triangle, then there is a peak on one end of the triangle, whichever angle you look at, and wherever that peak is, it's projecting or bringing in energy from that area specifically where the point is. And so that is the reason why the sacred sites in Egypt have pyramids on top of them, because they would use the pyramids to excel the vibrational fields that would be found on the earth to enhance the connections to their gods or to spirit. So that's just a little bit of a quick overview on some of the ways that shape has a resonance in our life. But in biogeometry, we go further by learning about how angles and specific angles have different resonance as well. And those resonances can then help to create different types of fields that we use in biogeometry. And an example of different types of angles that are used in biogeometry are these little stickers that you will be finding around your home, or that I use in specific areas for different types of clearings. And so these different types of angles that you can see here, one of them is a right angle and the other one is a 66-degree angle, hold different types of resonance that I then work with to clear specific things that they can work on a 3D physical level. So one of them will be really good for clearing ley lines. The other one will be really good for clearing technology. So you'll find these things on, your TV, you'll find them on your Wi-Fi, you'll find them on power plugs, because all of these areas create EMF, and that's electromagnetic fields. And these electromagnetic fields, even though they might be quite subtle or they might be only small areas of EMF, what happens is when we have them, one after the other in specific areas. So for example, we might have a power plug near the base of our bed, and then that power plug's connected into a power board, and that power board is then connected, to another, something that we connect into, like our heater, our lights, and all of those things. And so each time we're connecting it, we're connecting more electricity, more energy. And especially when we're sleeping, if it's near our head, that can actually cause a lot of detrimental frequencies that stop us from having a really solid and restful sleep. And over the long-term periods, it can also affect our emotions and physical body. Now, that's just one aspect of how angles can be used to clear and where we use angles in biogeometry. But the other thing that you'll be finding around your house is a whole bunch of colored dots. So these colored dots are the way that we work with them is actually clearing, or I should say, creating beneficial energy using color. Now, I know some people ask, is it because of that specific color that it's sending a frequency of red, or it's sending a frequency of yellow, or it's sending a frequency of green? Well, the answer to that is there is both of those cases. In some of the cases, you can use color to send a frequency out that can then create that vibration in your home. But when we're working with the colors, dots in your home, we're actually using the colors to find a resonance with the centering vibration. So this now brings me into another tool, which is the BG16. And the BG16 is a tool that I use a lot in bringing in the beneficial energies. So the BG16 is a pendulum, and this pendulum is used to find the frequency that we want to work with that creates healing in our home. And because of the way that this pendulum is designed, it holds that ability to find that frequency, and only that frequency. So that's the power of biogeometry, is they've created tools that pick up specific resonance to what we're looking for in order for us to test and in order for us to create those vibrations. So the BG16, in a way that I can explain it, is basically connected to the vibration of the center. And the center is the example of harmony, or it's equilibrium, or it's, connected to everything that is one and everything that has no polarity of sickness, illness, or absolute health. It is just completely in the center. So this particular pendulum is what I use to find that vibration, and what I use is the colored dots to actually find where the color is connected in the actual shape or the area that I'm using that holds that frequency. So the reason why you'll see a lot of dots on your items, like your books or specific types of plants and ornamental things in your home, is that I'm activating those particular objects in your home to create the centering vibration. So I'm using these stickers on the object, and when I find the exact spot on that object, then this actual tool will resonate with the centering vibration and say that exact spot where the sticker is exactly where the centering vibration is with that color. And when I put it on, then that object starts to resonate with the centering vibration. And depending on how strong the energy is, if we have multiple items that we use around the home, then it can then create a higher frequency of that centering vibration, which then helps to create that in the home so that you feel that sense of calm, that sense of peace, and many other health benefits as well, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's the way that we bring up the energy, along with some other aspects that I put into the space. So the other thing that you might realize is that these dots are also on your doors, and you'll see like a green and a red dot. And the reason why there's green and red is because we're working with polarity, because green is the opposite of red and red is the opposite of green on the color wheel. And what happens when we work with polarity is that it amplifies the actual centering vibration again. So these are all elements that we understand in colors and in artists, and working with artistic colors, we can then create things that in polarity can create a pop. But when we work with the centering vibration, it doubles the vibration of the centering vibration from the polarity coming together. So that's the other reason why you'll see polarity used in specific areas like your doors, around your exterior of your doorways, because every single doorway, every single window is a pathway of energy, because people walk through it, and that walking through is an energetic motion. It's a push, and that push is something that we want to create as much positive frequency through. So that's the other reason that we use colored dots on the doorways and on the windows, to also amplify the energy in the space. So another thing that you will see me using is a pendulum that looks like this. And this particular pendulum is one of the reasons why your home is feeling a lot more calmer as well, because this particular pendulum, it picks up all of the bad vibrations, so all of the detrimental vibrations. And so every time I'm finding that detrimental vibration, this is going to go into a spin to show me that there's something there that is of a disharmony in the room. So some of the things that could be causing disharmony are electricity lines, it could be Wi-Fi lines, it could be satellites that are outside the window, it could be 5G towers that are outside the window. And this is the thing that really helps to pick up and discern if there is an actual frequency that is harmful for the body. Okay, because we can't see electricity, it's like really hard to distinguish how can we see, if we can't see it, how is it bad for us? So this is the way that we can find it and create an actual awareness of it in a physical manner. And so every time I find it, I'm putting a correction on electricity line, or even a detrimental line from the earth. So what do I mean when I say a detrimental line from the earth? Everything on this planet has a kind of like a way of facilitating good energy and bad energy, kind of like our body has a way of eliminating bad toxins through sweat, coughing, sneezing. Now the planet has the same system, and that system is kind of like each time it's releasing something, it's creating a line. So there are negative lines that are sending the dirty energy, and then there's positive lines. So these ones are the ones that are creating the frequency of the centering vibration and healing. Both of them coexist, and both are necessary, because that's part of like how the planet regulates itself. But what we're finding, and the issue that we're finding in biogeometry, is that if you find, for example, a negative line, so if you find one of these veins, is what we like to call them, on the earth, and it's sending out dirty energy through that vein, and to be clear, these veins of the earth are approximately 1 foot apart, approximately 1 to 6 feet apart. And then the big ones, so the big fat lines that you really, really want to avoid, can be somewhere from 6 feet in width to 20 feet apart, okay? So this is something else I'm going to explain to you. But when we connect into these lines on the earth, this is how we find them. And what we find is that if we find this negative line on the earth and then we have a power plug on top of it, what we're doing there is we're amplifying the negative line with another negative, and this is when it can start to become dangerous. So what we're trying to do with this clearing on the ley lines is we're trying to loosen up and release any of the negativity in that line that we're finding that is connected to any type of Wi-Fi. So when we're doing a clearing in the house, we first start by clearing all of the electricity plugs, any of the Wi-Fi EMFs that we can find, so microwaves, fridges, all of those things that connect into electricity. We must completely neutralize those using the stickers. And then once we've done that, we've kind of taken away like the first layer that can be amplifying any of the negative energy on the negative lines. Okay, so once we've done that, then we can go around the periphery of usually bedrooms, so people's bedrooms, any types of offices where you spend a lot of time. Children play areas especially is really important. And then we start clearing the ley lines of the actual person's home. Now, that is the main part that is actually the, I would say, most dangerous part, because every time this finds a negative line, every time it finds a negative resonance and it starts spinning, our body, so the person that's conducting that clearing, starts to go into resonance with that frequency. So what that basically means is that every time I'm testing to find where those negative lines are that are in your home to help clear them, I'm then absorbing that energy that I then have to go and clear myself afterwards, which then helps to stop that negative energy creating disease. So when I am testing it, if I test it for too long and I don't clear myself, I'll start to have symptoms of aches and pains in my body, headaches, nausea, dehydration. And if it's something that I don't check and clear myself afterwards and make sure that I'm clear, I can also get really sick. So that's part of the reason why this is something that's really important to clear, but also that, you know, we spend quite a long time clearing the areas to make sure that you're going to have a completely Zen space and we're not getting sick in the process. So that's the reason why we have to take a certain amount of time to clear it, because for every time that we find a negative line, we have to also find a positive one to balance it out. So going back to those negative lines, the ones that we find in the bedrooms that are quite thick, and when I say that they're quite thick, if I do a clearing in your space and I say, all right, I have found a really thick line that's in your space and it's about 6 feet wide, wherever that line is, it's going straight through your bedroom, and that area should be something that you avoid even when we put the corrections on. So when I say they should be avoided, that means any types of beds that might be in that specific spot should try to be moved away. And if there are corrections, then I also would recommend that you are constantly checking to make sure those corrections every year or two are still staying really strong, so that way your health is going to be at its optimal. And I don't take this lightly when I say that you can get sick, because there are many case studies where people have had clearings after people that have passed away, loved ones that have passed away, and they find that these really detrimental lines are right through the area of the bed where their partner might have passed away. And wherever there's a crossing, so for example, that line is then got another line going through it, because the lines of dirty energy go horizontal and vertical on the flat lay. Wherever they cross over, they then amplify again. So if you can imagine an amplification of a crossover, and then you put a modem on top of that area, and then there's a power plug, then you're actually amplifying it over and over and over again. So this is where it starts to become quite dangerous. And this is the reason why biogeometry is so amazing, because it can help to clear those lines. And not only does it help to bring back health in the body, it can also allow for that person to live a really balanced and harmonious life. So I just wanted to give you those run throughs and some of the other tools that we use in biogeometry, so that you understand how we find how strong the energy is actually using one of these rulers. And the reason why this ruler is so important is because every time we amplify the room with those colored dots, it's sending out a vibrational antenna of that frequency. And so what we do in biogeometry is make sure that when we're testing the actual space to make sure that it's at its highest frequency, we need to make sure that it hits through all of these lines in order to get to the optimal health that you need. So this is another tool that we use alongside with the pendulum to actually find out how strong the energy is in your home, and to allow us to make sure that we're leaving your home in the highest field for your health. So one of the other things that you might have been taking into consideration, or you might have done already for yourself, is having a grid with some biosignatures. And I just wanted to show you, this is the actual manual for biogeometry. It's a 3-week intensive online course, and I've done the course twice now. I've repeated the advanced and the foundation twice, and I continue to keep studying it and practicing it just because of the amazing results that it has and the power that it has. But you might find that you will get a clearing, and that clearing is a little grid, and that grid will have a picture of you and a whole bunch of signatures. And this is what the signatures look like. And each one of these signatures is a different type of let's say vibration that helps to heal the body. And when I say it helps to heal the body, it helps to bring the motion of the energy in that organ that's out of balance back into balance. So for example, if you could imagine that all of the pathways in our body are different types of signatures when we work with them energetically. And when we're trying to clear anything in our body, it has a flow. It has a particular way that it flows in the body to create harmony. And so these signatures find where there's blockages in our body, and then it helps to bring that energetic flow through the movement of that signature. And then we amplify it using a different type of grid that holds these angles and these shapes to then create the information necessary for our bodies to absorb it. And so what we'll do is we'll usually make this grid, and then after a couple of months, we'll go back and we'll check the grid to see if your body's integrated that information. I've had amazing results myself and with my family as well, because the way that we can absorb this energy can be from our environment. So we can actually get quite sick if we're close to any power plugs and things like that, especially smart meters. They're very much sending detrimental energy. And if those are close to your head when you're sleeping, that can really create quite detrimental health benefits and effects to our life. So that's one of the things that I found, is that I woke up with less aches and pains in my body, because where I'm living right now, there was a huge not smart meter, but like an electricity board right out the front door. And when I was talking to you earlier about how every single doorway is a pool of energy, what was happening was that energy was going straight through our house, and our bedroom was right next to the front door. So both of our heads were right next to the front door. That was, you know, a 4-bedroom terrace, had all of its power electricity boards right out the front of our door. So I was waking up with aches and pains, headaches, tiredness, nausea. And as soon as I put the corrections in with the biosignatures, I noticed immediately that I started feeling a lot less groggy. I had already done the corrections after a couple of months. So I'm just going to let you guys know that if you do feel nausea or sickness, that can be because you've had so much absorbed in your energy field that in order for it to detoxify, you'll get headaches, you'll get nausea, you might even vomit. And that's just your body's way of releasing all of that in your body out. And so when I did do the corrections, I was pretty lucky that I hadn't been staying in the house long enough for it to get as bad as that. But I did feel the tiredness, and I did notice that after a couple of days to a couple of weeks, there was a difference in the way that I felt, which was, less grumpy, aggro, a lot more, capable of being aware of my surroundings and just being a lot more open to things. I've had feedback from other clients where their kids fight less, that they just seem lighter and happier. Also, animals absolutely love this, and they find that their animals are a lot more, calm and passive. So, the benefits are just phenomenal, and they range in all different ways. But one of the things that I do agree with is like detoxing the body regularly. And so if anyone does feel like their body is needing that detox, I do sell products to assist with that detox system. And one of the products is like Crystal Detox. And so the Crystal Detox helps to remove those toxins faster from the body, especially if you're feeling that heaviness after you've had your home cleared. The Crystal Detox is a powder form, and I'm just going to grab you an example, 2 secs. So just so you know what it looks like, it's just this powder, and it's just really finely grounded crystals that are the top quality A-grade zeolite. So going back to the way that I find which products to use, I also use this ruler, and I will test putting the product there to see how strong the frequency is with the centering vibration pendulum, because this will only work if it has the centering vibration, and it'll tell me how strong it is depending on how far up the ruler it goes. And depending on how far up the ruler it goes, that's how potent it is. And this by far is the most potent that I've found in zeolite on the market. So I highly recommend it for anybody that's detoxing. You'd use it as a bath soak. You can use it as a foot soak. And you can also use it as a face mask and a body mask as well if you need to do more detoxification faster. So that's one of the products. The other things that I use is plasma. So I use plasma face cream and body cream along with other types of plasma that we put in our water system. And what the plasma is basically, you can see it, it's like this kind of looks like a granulated white milky mixture. Okay, and what the plasma is a separation, and this one's CO2 GANs. So we have the solid CO2 as a solid that then gets separated into a liquid, and then the liquid turns into separated into a gas, and then they separate the gas to create the GANs. And so this is what the GANs is made up of, is the separation of the gas, and it's its purest form. And it's so it works like an energy that can assimilate the potency of that frequency. And when we put this into, I sell sticks of them for you to put inside of your water filters. Okay, so it has to be water filtered because it amplifies anything that it works with. And so what we do is we put this into the water filters so that it sends that frequency into the water that we drink, and then drinking that will then help us to create a higher frequency, because we're filling up our cup, filling up our energy with positive vibrations. So it's like when we talk about, we can't work from an empty cup, we're talking about that aspect of energy. We can't work when our energy is depleted. And at the moment we're, working longer hours, we're not eating probably as healthy as we could. And so using things like the plasma, working with biogeometry really helps to create clearing and then amplification of the right things that we need in our body. So just quickly on a last note with the crystals, you might find in your home that there are some of these crystals, and these particular crystals I use on the power boards when I'm clearing your homes. So I stick a specific number and I use them in a specific sequence because I'm using number as well, because this is the other thing in nature, number has a resonance. And so depending on different numbers that we use, we can actually harness the energy of numbers to create a healing property as well. The other thing that I use are specific little selenite pyramids, and these hold a shape information as well. So this shape information is also used to bring in beneficial energies and amplify the healing energy in your rooms. So if you find these, don't touch them, just leave them as they are, try to clean around them, and just kind of, just know that they're doing things to help for you. I think that's pretty much it, apart from a couple of other little tips and tricks that I might just put in. But if you are moving home and you want to take these with you, all you need to do is get a plastic sleeve. So if you can imagine like something plastic, pull them off and just stick them on, because as you move home, so will the vibration of what you're going to be clearing in the next space. So if you clear all of if you take these with you, it's going to save you having to pay for the next round of product that you would be using. So you would just stick them onto a clear plastic sleeve, and then that will be able to be used again for the next place that you move to. As for any of the biosignatures and the dots, they don't need to be moved, and they can just be tested later down the track to make sure that all of those frequencies are being held in the body, and to make sure that the rooms are staying at their optimal for you and your health. So I hope that explains everything. And if you have any other questions, just send me an email and I might be happy to explain. Thank you.